What's up everyone? Hope y'all are doing well. Today's gonna be a really exciting day. Now that the shop is finished, the lift is in, and all the equipment is together, we can finally move on to pulling the engine in the 240SX. So just a quick recap, I have a rebuilt RB25 that we're gonna swap into the car, have a transmission, there's a bunch of extra parts here, and a ton of new stuff all on the shelf over there. So it's gonna be an interesting process. I've never done something like this before, so I'm gonna have the help of friends along the way. It's gonna be a great learning opportunity, and I hope you guys enjoy all the videos to come. First things first, we gotta get the Jimmy out of here so we can move the 240 back and get it lined up for the lift. First things first, I gotta relieve the fuel system pressure. So to do that, we're gonna pull the fuse for the pump, start it up, let it stall, and then it should be good to go. So according to the diagram, it should be this one. Let's give it a shot. Good to go. Ignore this contraption. Good night. That's broken. That holds it in. It's a cotter pin.
Science.
It's about the right for the par for 240s, aren't it?
Oh yeah.
Out she goes. It's the first time we're using the lift for a project video. This is pretty cool.
Now what?
Need to raise it up, make sure everything lines up properly, make sure it's stable, and then we can start draining some fluids. So if you guys hadn't seen the video where we got the new lift installed, this thing's pretty sweet. It's one of Benpack's new Grand Prix series. It's the middle tier model. And it's just perfect for a garage like this that doesn't have super tall ceilings, but gives you plenty of room to work underneath here. Awesome. Let there be light. Now we've got the engine oil drained. Let's drain the transmission. This is my friend Rob, guys. He's gonna...
How y'all doing?
Yeah, make sure I don't do anything stupid. He's got a 240 and knows these cars pretty intimately, wouldn't you say?
I've worked on a few of them, torn a few apart. Yeah, basically like a 10, 12, 14. That's probably your most common sizes on these Nissans, or really any Japanese or domestic car.
Yeah.
Basically now it should pop right out. There's that big piece. Sweet.
One down, a million to go.
There was something else that made the 240 home.
Ooh.
For at least a little while.
That's nasty.
So if you ever wondered what this thing is right here, it's a charcoal canister. It takes all of the vapors from the fuel tank and I guess stores them in here and treats it, right?
Basically puts it back into the engine. Or yeah, kind of the charcoal
Kind of
treats
filters it, sort of.
Yeah, and it sends it back into the engine and reburns the vapors.
We don't need any of that stuff anymore.
No, we're not going to need that.
Chuck it. So it goes in underneath and...
Yeah, kind of what you got to do is kind of take the tension off it like that. So see how the barrel finally just popped out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always best. That is like a good tech tip. To always have like a place to put your tools because they will fall in there.
I have done it.
You know, a whole lot of 10mm bolts.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of disconnecting.
Yeah.
So now we might have some luck.
Lift off.
See how it? Yeah. Oop, making a mess. There's gonna be some coolant in here that's gonna come out. Yeah, there's still a lot of coolant in the engine.
Yeah.
Right there. Your first mess.
Yay! Somebody said in the last video that the garage was too clean. It's not anymore.
You're not having fun unless you're making a mess.
So I know all that kind of happened in a flash, but basically what we're doing right here is trying to get everything freed up so we can get the shroud and the radiator out. Once that's out of the way, we'll have a lot more working space to show you guys what's going on. Because you said we can actually take the computer out and not have to take all this stuff off, right?
Yeah, once we get the radiator and stuff out, we already got, you know, some of the wires disconnected to what's bolted to the body of the car, but from here on out we should be able to just take the computer and the harness and pull it through the firewall, set it right on top of the engine, and that way we won't really have to disconnect every wire from the engine. It'll save us some time and hassle and just leave it all together as one piece.
Sounds good to me. So we got a lot more room going on right now. I guess the next step is to remove the power steering or move it out of the way.
Yeah, we're going to take it off the engine, and same thing with the AC compressor. We'll leave those systems totally connected up right now and just leave them in the car off to the side.
Cool.
Yeah, well, they got a long one there, which was nice.
And we have lift off.
All right.
So I'm working on getting the power steering pump set aside right now. There's one bolt up here I've taken off. There's 3 more. Then we can move this over here and start tackling the AC compressor. There we go. He-Man. So next step, we're going to take the hood off because it'll not only let a lot more light so we can see what we're doing better, but it'll be a lot easier to hoist this out, I guess.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, my neck.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. What about the, the washer jet? Oops. All right.
Safe and undamaged.
Yeah. So there was actually, if you look right here, you can just undo the hose from this little split. So it was easy.
Yeah.
Just remember that before you do it.
So every time we gotta take a hood off at work, we do what we just did, and then we get to where we gotta be holding, and we're like, dang, the hose.
Yeah. Whoops.
Every time.
Why didn't we take the hood off first? This is awesome. So much light. So what I'm doing now is taking off this kick panel on the passenger side to get access to the computer. We're gonna unplug the box, fish the harness through the grommet and the firewall, then connect it back so we can keep everything on top of the engine and all together when we pull it out.
But basically now, what we gotta do is a little bit of a fun part. You gotta kind of like fish this, because it's gotta slide behind the blower motor or in the HVAC box. before it goes through the hole
Okay.
in the firewall. So we'll have someone stand out there and kind of help pull it through while I fish this side through.
You just tell me when to pull. Pull?
Pull that, yep. There's gonna be a spot, it's like there's like this plastic L thing that's taped into the harness. Yep.
Sweet.
That wasn't too bad, huh?
I guess not.
Sometimes you see that little L shape in the harness?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can really get hung up and stuck on stuff.
I gotcha.
But it came out pretty good.
Hey.
It's weird how they route the wiring harness partially behind the brake and clutch lines.
That's interesting.
There.
Alright. So now we got to remove the fuel lines. Now this is where releasing that fuel pressure that we did at the beginning of the video comes into play. By doing that, it minimizes the fuel that could potentially squirt out everywhere and in your eyes. So it's just a good safety thing to do.
There you go. Slowly but surely.
There we go.
And see how not barely any fuel even came out?
Yep.
That's really the best way to do it. The way you did it was by pulling the fuse out and letting the car run out of fuel. Mm-hmm. Like you said, that way it don't squirt out all over the car or in your eyes, or like if you had a freshly painted engine bay, you're not gonna want gas getting all over the new paint. So that's the way to do it.
Paper towel delivery incoming.
Thank you.
Like a respirator.
Once it drains out a good amount, just lift it. Once it drains out a good amount, lift it back up and it'll stop coming out. There you go.
Look at that. I'm gonna go get some oxygen.
I'm gonna take this whole air pump thing off the strut tower and the ignition coil and igniter off the strut tower to give us some more room, because we may end up taking the manifold, unbolting it from the head, or we may take it off down there at another connection. I'm not sure yet. We're gonna see whatever ends up being easier.
So we're getting fairly close here. I'm gonna take off the hoses that run to the heater core, and then the power wire for the alternator, the ground, the starter wire, and then we'll see where we're at after that. Alright, got one. And there goes the coolant.
The steering column, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem.
I made an accident.
Pull it up.
What'd you do, Kyle?
The bucket of coolant slipped out of my hand. It's not as bad as it could have been. But the shop is officially no longer clean.
We're breaking the shop in.
Yeah,
Thanks, bro.
that's what I'm here for.
I was thinking that I might unbolt like the downpipe from the manifold and leave the manifold on the car.
Okay. No, it's coming out. Wow. All right, 2 broken bolts. But this is free. Another Rob top tip. Stuck bolt. Never mind, you do it.
Sometimes it don't. It needed one more little tap.
In case anybody's wondering about why we're not using fender protectors,
Fender covers.
the paint on this car is so bad and it needs so much body work that it just does not even matter at this point. It's pretty, you know, from afar, it looks all right, but
we're not really getting it that dirty.
No.
A couple fingerprints and stuff, but
no, but it'll be all right for now. It's got to get repainted anyway. This little dust boot is just completely deteriorated, so just cut that off. I have a whole new shifter assembly that's going to go in the car when the new transmission gets in, so we'll have all new parts later anyway. So the only thing left holding the shifter in now is that little snap ring. So once we get that out, just a little tricky, the whole shifter will pop out. Should just lift, right?
Yeah, pretty much should just lift right out of there.
Nice.
Is it all the way?
Yep.
The gear. Just wanted to make sure it was in neutral. Yep. There you go. There's your shifter.
Alright guys, so the car's up in the air and here's what we have left to do. We have to drop the exhaust, remove the drive shaft which comes out at the differential, the carrier bearing, and then it pulls out of the back of the transmission. We have the transmission cross member, got to unbolt the slave cylinder and pull that aside. After that, we should be about ready to pull this engine out. So while he does the hard job of getting all those bolts out, see how much fun he's having over there? Look at him. Look at him smiling. I'm going to go ahead and undo the rubber hangers back here. This is a good instance where one of these lifts come into play. So as I'm taking things apart, going this way, this lift will hold the exhaust up until we're ready to take it all down at one time.
Like I said, we're not reusing it, and sometimes it's nice when they break because they come out faster.
True.
There's that
Oh,
one.
right.
One more. Hopefully that one breaks too. The hardest one. It's the only one that don't want to break.
Of course. How nice would it have been to have this lift when I did all the suspension stuff?
Gosh.
It's heavier than it looks.
The whole exhaust right there.
With the exhaust out of the way, we got more room to get up to the carrier bearing and stuff here, so let's get this drive shaft down.
I'm having him take it out of gear and put it in gear periodically. Whenever I crack a bolt loose, I just have him take it back out of gear so I can spin the drive shaft and have access to the next bolt. And once he puts it in gear and puts the e-brake on, which, are you ready with the e-brake and the in gear?
Yep.
Okay, so now that he's got that all set, I can crack the next bolt free on the drive shaft because they're really tight. Alright, you can take it out of gear and take the e-brake off.
Okay.
Alright, set it back up. This is the last one we got. Brake free. Now we should be able to just slide it right out. Sweet. Careful, the sun may come on there.
So this is so after we take the cross member off, the transmission doesn't just boom. We can just let it dangle real nice and slow. Yeah.
We'll only be able to lower it down that much, but once it's lowered that much, we can just raise the lift.
Yeah.
And then take this out of there and let it hang, because once we get those off, we pretty much just gotta unbolt the motor mounts, and that might be about it.
Sounds good to me. I almost forgot about this. Before I drop the transmission down fully, I'm wrapping a bag around the back end, because even though I've drained all the fluid, there's still going to be some in there, so when it goes down this way, we don't want it to just pour over the floor and make a worse mess than we've already made today. Alright, that's about as far as it's going to go right now. The last thing we're going to do while the car's up in the air is crack the motor mount bolts. You can see them right up in there. By doing that, they'll be loose enough that when we get the car back on the ground, we can loosen them fully. Don't want to take them out fully right now, just in case, being that the transmission's already dangling, we don't want any nasty surprises. So we'll get this taken care of now and get the car back on the ground. All right.
See the light at the end of the tunnel now.
Almost there. All right, we're pretty much ready to pull this thing. The only thing left to do is remove the front fascia so we can get the engine hoist up in here a little bit more. Strap everything in, take the mount bolts out completely, and then give it a go, right?
Yes, sir. Alright, everything should be disconnected. There we go.
Look at that. Naked 240.
Naked 240. We probably got to take the actual bumper off too. I'm just going to take this bolt for that and screw it right there.
Yeah. So before we try to pull the engine out, we're going to jack up the back of the transmission a little bit just to try to keep, I guess, the powertrain more level when we're pulling it out so the trans doesn't drag.
Yeah, so it don't drag across the ground. It'll just kind of help us get things out a little bit easier.
Okay.
Probably right here is where we're going to need it to be able to make it happen.
Yeah. So we're trying to see if it's possible to put this leveler on here. And I noticed that I'm missing 4 exhaust manifold bolts. What?
It didn't sound like it had a leak when it ran.
No, it didn't. It doesn't.
That's weird.
What? 4 here, none there. So the leveler obviously didn't work. So we're using a seatbelt.
It's just not really anywhere good to hook the lever to.
No.
And we're going to waste more time trying to hook it up than just do this. I've actually never used one of those levelers.
Really?
I've tried to several times and it always ends up being a situation like that where I'm like, let's just do it this way. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's faster. Now lift it up a little, put some tension on it. Keep going.
Ooh, there it goes.
Keep going. There we go. Now pull it back. Pull back.
There it goes. Cool. So the last thing we're doing before we pull it out completely is unplugging the electricals and stuff from the transmission.
This is a reverse sensor. The only time we're going to have to lift that back of that transmission up is when we're pulling it out over it. Jack it up a little more.
This is crazy. So precarious. Alright, going back.
Yep. And then commit fully. Alright.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Dude, I've seen people straight drop engines from
Oh,
that
no.
height by accident. Because you know how you have the thing tight and you try to crack it loose and it goes whoosh.
Yeah.
The seatbelt trick, I'm sure they use that.
Woo! That's sick.
Dude, they're strong, right?
I know.
The
That's
first time I
amazing.
seen that, I was like, are you guys sure we're not going to die right now?
I would like to extend a special thanks to the Parts Jimmy for donating one of its seatbelts to our cause.
The parts Jimmy is already coming in handy.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man.
There's the
wow.
240 with no engine in it.
Look at that. That's so cool.
These two bolts like cracking loose real good and wiggle the line and just breaks the seal and it'll go psh and try to have it like pointing at the ground.
I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty awesome. Even though there's still so much work that has to be done on this car, it's a great feeling to be finally at this stage. Like I said, this whole thing is a big learning process, so I really appreciate y'all's help and patience as we work through the series. If you guys can use any of these extra parts, let me know, including some of the parts that I haven't taken out of the car yet, and the powertrain. I'd rather it go to someone who can use it versus just trying to get rid of it. But before I close the video out, I wanted to throw a couple questions out there to see what you guys think. One thing that's very important for me is retaining air conditioning. So I know there's a lot of people that have done it with the RB25, and it seems like there's so many different schools of thought on the right way of going about doing it. I just wanted to know, like, if there's any way that you can retain any of the S13's original equipment and adapt it to use for the engine. Now, I have an RB25 compressor. I don't have any lines or anything like that, so that's all gonna have to be custom made, but can you use this in a combination with S13 stuff? If any of you, if any of you guys have any thoughts on that, post them in the comments below. I really appreciate it. The other thing I wanted to throw out there is bash bars. So I don't know a whole lot about them. I know a lot of people in drifting use them. Basically, it's a tubed section up here instead of that big cross member down there. And I was wondering, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to have to go on here with the intercooler and piping, clearance, and all of that kind of stuff. And I was wondering if doing something like a bash bar setup was appropriate for this car, even though it's not going to be used for drifting, if it would just make it easier in the long run to route all of that stuff. Let me know. Anyway, guys, this is just the start of a very long list of things that I just need to figure out, as you do with any sort of custom project like this. But anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see this thing progress. It's already progressed. Finally. Anyway, I'll keep you guys up to date. Don't forget to follow my social media channels, SaabKylo4 LLC, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for continuous updates on this car. If you have any ideas, feedback, suggestions for the car and the videos going forward, post them below. Also, I really appreciate it. It's always great to hear from you guys. If you haven't subscribed already, consider doing so, because obviously there's a lot more where that came from. And don't forget to hit that little notification bell. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like below, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.